This is mercury. It's one of the heaviest naturally occurring metals, clocking in at element 80 on the periodic table. Long revered for its unique and traditionally mystical properties, mercury is actually quite the useful, albeit toxic element. Although it's still used today in a litany of electronic and industrial applications, mercury's heyday has passed, perhaps peaking in the 1800s and 1900s when it was extensively used for gold extraction, dental purposes, ammunition, in thermometers, and even as a laxative. In its free state, it occurs as a silvery liquid metal, as its melting point is negative 38.8 degrees Celsius, but it usually occurs in nature in a toxic mercury sulfide mineral known as cinnabar. Though often seen as a gimmicky metal that kids used to play with before the EPA stepped in, mercury is, and has been, arguably one of the most important metals in all of human history. And the story of California is a perfect case study into the many intricacies of mercury and its role in society. Naturally occurring in abundance in California's coast ranges, mercury was key to building California into the economic powerhouse that it is today, largely beginning during the apex of the infamous California Gold Rush. With that being said, mercury has also been key to the destruction and pollution of much of California's natural environment, especially to bodies of water in the northern part of the state. This is the story of how mercury built and destroyed California. California is home to some of the most well-endowed mercury deposits in the world, particularly in the coast ranges, and this can be explained through the region's complex geology that established the perfect conditions for mercury deposition. The coast ranges are largely composed of rock that originated at the bottom of the Pacific Ocean and was sutured or accreted onto the western margin of North America via various tectonic regimes about 160 to 65 million years ago during the Jurassic and Cretaceous periods. These tectonic processes metamorphosed, fractured, and faulted these rock units, forming serpentinite and establishing the pre-mineralization architecture for mercury to deposit later. Within the last 23 million years, mercury has been deposited and continues to be deposited throughout the coast ranges. The San Andreas Fault and related fault systems have played a huge role in mercury deposition, as these faults provide conduits for hydrothermally altered fluids to percolate through the coast ranges and eventually deposit mercury. Subterranean magmatism associated with the San Andreas Fault and Pacific North American Plate boundary tends to be the source of mercury in the area, and when groundwater interacts with subterranean magmatic bodies, it picks up mercury ions from the magma and transports them through faults in the coast ranges. This mercury bonds with sulfur in the hydrothermal solution, forming the mineral cinnabar, a mercury sulfide that is the chief ore mineral in these deposits in the coast ranges. Most deposits in the coast ranges exist along faults, fractures, and planes of weakness in close proximity to serpentinite from the Franciscan complex. Mercury-bearing hydrothermal solutions in the coast ranges surface at the Earth as hot spring deposits, such as those found near Clear Lake at the Sulphur Bank Mine. The Sulphur Bank Mine was one of California's most productive mercury mines, producing 127,973 flasks, or roughly 10 million pounds of mercury, from 1874 to 1957. Today, the Sulphur Bank Mine is designated as an EPA Superfund site due to intense contamination of mercury, arsenic, and antimony from both the flooded Herman Pit and underground diggings at the mine site. The leakage of mercury from the Sulphur Bank Mine into Clear Lake makes Clear Lake one of the most mercury-contaminated lakes in the world, as alarmingly high rates of inorganic mercury are found in lake sediments, and high rates of organic mercury compounds, such as methylmercury, are found in fish and other organisms from the lake. Due to the geological activity that remains underfoot in the coast ranges, mercury is still actively being deposited throughout the region. At Clear Lake, for example, mercury contamination does not just stem from abandoned mine leakage into the lake. Several mercury deposits naturally occur beneath Clear Lake, testament to the area's active geology. A 1987 study in the academic journal Geology that analyzed the content of sediments in Clear Lake postulates that over 2,400 metric tons of mercury have been naturally deposited in the lake within the last 15,000 years. This mercury was likely deposited by mercury-rich geothermal fluids rising along active faults near and underneath the lake. In fact, mercury continues to be deposited at the Sulphur Bank mine today, as cinnabar, pyrite, native sulfur, and other compounds have been found around active vents and hot springs on the property. A 1988 paper published in the journal Economic Geology even goes so far as to say, quote, "Sulphur Bank is one of the few places in the world where one can readily observe ore minerals precipitating from hydrothermal solutions." While the mine itself is located on private property and trespassing is forbidden, there's a parking lot on the edge of the property that you can visit. And when I went there to film this video, I was met with an overwhelming stench of sulfur and what I can only describe as a weird, stinky, but almost sweet smell. Perhaps the smell of mercury being actively deposited. The most likely culprit of the continued mercury deposition in the Clear Lake region is Mount Konocti, a 4,305-foot high volcano that presides over the southern shore of the lake. This volcano has been intermittently active for the last 2.1 million years, and geophysical studies show that a molten body of magma beneath the volcano remains, the most likely source for much of, if not all of, the naturally occurring mercury in the area. Another example of continued mercury deposition in the Coast Ranges comes from Mount Diablo just east of San Francisco. At the Mount Diablo mercury mine, sulfuric gas and methane expulsion from the ground was reported by miners well into the 1940s, a true testament to the persisting hydrothermal activity of the mercury deposits of the Coast Ranges. The mines on Mount Diablo have also been designated as EPA Superfund sites, as toxic, mercury-laden drainage from the mine sites are leaching into Marsh Creek, which eventually flows into the San Francisco Bay. Large-scale mercury deposits in the Coast Ranges, such as those at Sulphur Bank, Mount Diablo, New Almaden, and New Idria, have been extensively mined for the last 175 years. Located near San Jose, New Almaden opened in 1847 and produced over 84 million pounds of mercury until it closed in 1976. New Idria, meanwhile, produced over 38 million pounds of mercury from 1854 until it closed in 1972. Much of the mercury mined from these deposits in the Coast Ranges was used in the war efforts in both World War I and World War II, as well as in the Sierra Nevada and Klamath Mountains during the California Gold Rush. The Ohlone, Miwok, and other local Native American tribes have long been mining mercury from California's Coast Ranges, using the brilliant red mineral cinnabar for ceremonial purposes in festivals, battles, and more. This was the extent of the use of California's mercury until the mid-1800s, when the California Gold Rush forever changed the fate of California's quicksilver. The California Gold Rush was perhaps the most economically influential event to ever occur in California, and may very well be one of the most influential economic events to transpire in all of North America. After gold was discovered at Sutter's Mill on the South Fork American River by James Marshall in 1848, word spread like wildfire, and over 300,000 people from all over the world flocked to the Sierra Nevada to try and strike it rich. From 1848 to 1855, over 12 million troy ounces of gold was extracted from the Sierra Nevada, valued at over $35.2 billion in today's currency, forever establishing California as an economic powerhouse. While all of this gold was mined from the Sierra Nevada, it would not have been possible without the equally impressive amounts of mercury that was mined in the Coast Ranges. Mercury was key to the California gold rush because without mercury, there would have been no way to extract the gold from all of the gold-bearing host rock found in the Sierra Nevada and Klamath Mountains during the gold rush. Large-scale mercury deposits in the coast ranges, such as the aforementioned Sulphur Bank, New Almaden, New Idria, and Mount Diablo, supplied miners with all the mercury they could need. While the height of the gold rush transpired from 1848 to 1855, gold continued to be mined on an economic scale in the Sierra Nevada, Klamath Mountains, and other locations within the Golden State well into the 1950s, when the Idaho-Maryland mine near Grass Valley closed. While all of this gold was being mined, mercury was also being mined in the Golden State, as many of the huge mercury mines in the Coast Ranges remained open until the 1970s. During the beginning of the gold rush, the 49ers mainly mined placer gold nuggets that were already separated from their host rock and tumbled down creeks and rivers. Prospectors would simply bring pans to rivers on the western slopes of the Sierra Nevada and seek gold nuggets within the sediment load of these rivers. This was pretty successful for the very beginning of the gold rush, but easy-to-find placer gold ran dry pretty dang quickly. After the low-hanging fruit was picked, miners had to get more creative to strike it rich. Placer mining quickly transitioned into hard rock mining, as prospectors began sniffing out in situ gold veins and mining them. While spectacular gold veins and bonanzas were discovered and mined, separating the gold from the host rock was a whole different ordeal that was not possible without mercury. First, gold ore would be crushed into a powder. The ore would then be bathed in liquid mercury, or quicksilver. Mercury has quite a low melting point of -38.8 degrees Celsius, making it the only metal that's in a liquid state at room temperature, thus allowing miners to utilize it in this respect. Due to the chemical properties of both gold and mercury, the liquid mercury would pick up the gold, forming a gold-mercury amalgamation, also known as an amalgam or alloy. The gold-mercury amalgam would sink to the bottom of the container it was in, due to gold and mercury having much higher atomic masses than other elements in the host rock. This crushed powder that was robbed of gold by the mercury was known as tailings, and miners would separate the tailings from their amalgam and trash it, leaving just the gold-mercury amalgam. Finally, miners would boil this gold-mercury amalgam until all of the mercury was vaporized and burned off, leaving behind pure gold. While this method was quite effective at extracting gold, it had several drawbacks, both in terms of human and environmental health. Mercury is a highly toxic metal that causes an array of health issues when ingested, and miners were breathing in copious amounts of mercury vapor when processing gold ore. Elemental mercury loves to bond with sulfur, hence the mineral cinnabar, and one of the ways it destroys our bodies is quite literally by bonding with sulfur in sulfhydryl proteins and other molecules to form weird cinnabar-like compounds that destroy vital proteins and inhibit necessary biological functions in the human body. Because mercury is so large at an atomic scale, when mercury is absorbed into the body, it blocks important pathways in our nervous system, hence most of the common symptoms of mercury poisoning. Our bodies are designed to accommodate and utilize light metals such as sodium and potassium, and heavy metals such as mercury that act like sodium and potassium in our bodies block and inhibit important neurological pathways. These nervous system impingements at the hands of mercury can be manifested as uncontrollable tremors, memory problems, numbness, tingling, sensory impairment, headaches, psychosis, delusions, behavioral and psychological changes, brain damage, and other nervous system issues. Nervous system mercury poisoning was the main type of mercury poisoning miners suffered from, as they were inhaling elemental mercury. This nervous system type of mercury poisoning actually led to several stereotypes of miners and industrial workers. Just think of the crazy prospector trope or even the Mad Hatter from Alice in Wonderland. When toxic fumes of mercury are inhaled, elemental mercury is absorbed and processed through the lungs, messing up the nervous system, depositing in the cerebellum, and causing irreversible brain damage. That's basically what happened to the miners. In addition to our nervous system, mercury can accumulate and wreak havoc in any of our critical biological systems, including our cardiovascular system, which is especially dangerous. Prolonged mercury exposure is more often than not fatal, leading to kidney failure, cardiovascular failure, respiratory failure, irreversible neurological damage, comas, and eventually death. Mercury poisoning remains a significant health risk today. Many facial cleansers, skin lightening creams, and beauty products from other countries that lack health guidelines and inspections often contain mercury salts, and applying them to your face, body, or wherever can actually be fatal. This is why public health boards, agencies, and guidelines are so important. They prevent us from unnecessarily poisoning ourselves. I say this with all due respect. I strongly advise against purchasing beauty products from other countries without health guidelines, and even from domestic flea markets, farmers markets, or swap meets, as they are not held to the same inspection standards as products you would purchase at a store are. Specific products to be aware of include skin lightening creams, acne creams, and any quote-unquote natural lotion, soap, or skin cream with a sketchy label. I'm not trying to come at or unfairly target farmers markets here, but it's important to always be aware of the ingredients of things you're putting into your body and make sure that the products you are purchasing have trustworthy labels on them. Some specific ingredients and/or words that would raise alarm bells if you see them on a beauty product you're thinking of purchasing include mercurous chloride, calomel, mercuric, mercurio, or mercury. If you see any of these words on a beauty product, do not purchase it, as it contains mercury. In addition to the human health risks mercury poses, mercury is highly toxic and damaging to the environment, and unfortunately, it has wreaked havoc in several parts of California. An estimated 10 to 13 million pounds of mercury was discharged into the environment during the California Gold Rush, the vast majority flowing down the Sacramento River into the San Francisco Bay. This has caused widespread pollution to aquatic ecosystems in Northern California. When elemental mercury seeps into a waterway, bacteria converts the inorganic mercury into an organic compound known as methylmercury. This organic mercury compound is particularly dangerous to humans and animals, and it accumulates in organisms such as fish, birds, mammals, and people. Methylmercury makes its way up the food chain. Instead of dissolving or breaking down when consumed, it accumulates when eaten. This means that organisms that are in higher trophic levels of the food chain contain higher amounts of mercury in a mercury-contaminated ecosystem, which basically states that a top predator in an ecosystem has higher mercury levels than a mid-level herbivore. This is why mercury is a concern in swordfish and tuna in particular, because they're at the highest trophic level, or top of the food chain, in their respective ecosystems. This phenomenon of methylmercury accumulation by trophic level holds true for the Sacramento River, San Francisco Bay, Clear Lake, and other major bodies of water in Northern California, where mercury contamination has been documented to have caused extensive birth and developmental deformities in waterfowl, shorebirds, and other species. Ingesting mercury-contaminated foods such as fish or ducks from various California locations is a real hazard, and several significant bodies of water in Northern California have serious mercury-related health warnings in effect, advising people to avoid consuming fish from them. Clear Lake, for example, is one of the most mercury-contaminated bodies of water in the world, which we touched on in more depth earlier on in the video. An estimated 26 million pounds of mercury was utilized during the California Gold Rush, and the gold mines themselves were largely the sites where mercury was used to extract gold from the gold ore. These mines are still polluted with thousands of pounds of mercury, which has largely seeped into the water table in the western Sierra Nevada. Experts have concluded that due to the immense amount of mercury that still exists at these abandoned sites upstream of major waterways, mercury will continue to be released into and pollute California's waterways for at least the next 10,000 years. An absolutely sobering stat. With all of this being said, it's not just the gold mines that continue to pollute California's environment. The abandoned mercury mines in the Coast Ranges are huge contributors to this pollution as well, and they remain a significant issue to California's ecosystems. According to the USGS, there are over 550 abandoned mercury mines in California, far more than any other US state, and these mines continue to pollute the environment by contaminating the air, water, and soil in their vicinities. Despite containing over 550 abandoned mercury mines, records show that only 10 of these mines have been cleaned up. California would not be the economic powerhouse it is today if it were not for the mining and production of mercury within the state, but the irresponsibility of mercury extraction, use, and disposal within the Golden State has led to the tragic destruction of ecosystems and to 10,000 years of continued pollution. Perhaps we can innovate a way to rapidly clean mercury-contaminated areas in the future, and perhaps there is hope yet to expedite the healing of the land across California. The work that people are doing now to clean up polluted sites across the state is commendable, and hopefully the good work they do can not only continue to heal the environment, but also inspire change in future generations. Thank you for watching this installment of Solomon's Outdoor Adventures. Please consider liking and commenting on the video, as well as subscribing to my channel if you haven't already, as it really helps me to get more content like this out to y'all. Thanks again for watching, and as always, peace! Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Solomon's Outdoor Adventures. If you enjoy content like this, please like the video and subscribe to the channel, and check out some of our other adventures right here. As always guys, thanks again and peace!